We live in a world where many people wear masks, not the kind that protect us from illness, but the kind that protect us from truth. The mask of perfection, the mask of success, the mask of strength. Yet behind the mask lies a quiet struggle, a slow suffocation of the spirit. This is Earl Nightingale, and today I want to speak to you about a silent destroyer of lives, dreams, and happiness, the mask you wear. Each day, millions of people wake up and put on a mask of confidence when they feel uncertain, a mask of happiness when they feel empty, a mask of wealth when they are drowning in debt. These masks are not made of fabric or plastic. They are made of fear. The fear of not being accepted, the fear of rejection, the fear that who we truly are is not enough. But let me tell you something. Pretending to be someone you are not is the surest way to miss the life you were meant to live. The mask you wear is not protecting you, it is killing you slowly. It robs you of joy, of peace, of opportunity. It forces you to live a half-life, a performance instead of a purpose. You see, the world does not need another copy. It needs the original. Your original mind, your original spirit, your original voice. Every great contribution to humanity has come from those who dared to stand without a mask. They dared to be seen as they truly were. Imperfect, yes, but authentic, and because of that, powerful. There is a quote I want you to remember. The mask you wear is killing you slowly, but the courage to remove it will set you free instantly. Now, how do you begin? First, take a quiet moment and ask yourself, where in my life am I pretending? What mask am I wearing to gain acceptance or approval? Awareness is the first step. Second, practice honesty in small doses. Speak your truth gently but firmly. Let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. You'll find that people respect sincerity far more than pretense. Third, align your daily actions with your real values. If success matters to you, pursue it honestly. If family matters, invest in it deeply. If freedom matters, stop chaining yourself to the opinions of others. The greatest prison is the one we build by pretending to be someone we are not, and many live their entire lives behind its walls without even realizing it. This prison is not made of steel or stone, it has no guards and no locked doors, yet it confines more people than any physical cell ever could. It is built from fear, cemented by insecurity, and guarded by the constant need for approval. Every time we hide our true selves to fit into an image others expect, every time we silence our voice to avoid rejection, every time we act in ways that do not align with who we really are, we lay another brick in this invisible prison. Pretending may bring temporary comfort. It may win us applause or approval, but beneath the surface it drains us. There is a cost to living behind a mask, and that cost is authenticity. When we pretend to be someone we are not, we bury our own gifts, our own desires, and our own identity beneath layers of pretense. Slowly, we lose sight of who we truly are. It begins subtly, with small compromises, small lies, small performances. Over time, those little moments accumulate until one day we wake up and realize we no longer recognize the person in the mirror. The face may be ours, but the life is not. The prison of pretense keeps us bound in ways that stunt growth. If we are always trying to be someone else, we cannot discover the unique strengths and abilities we were meant to develop. We trade genuine progress for artificial acceptance. We might gain the world's approval but forfeit our own peace. And peace is the foundation of a fulfilling life. When we are forced to maintain the act of being someone else, our energy is spent not on creation or contribution but on performance. That performance becomes exhausting, and it leaves us restless because deep down we know we are not living our truth. The tragedy of this prison is that the key has always been in our hands. We build the walls, and we also have the power to tear them down. The way out begins with courage. The courage to admit to ourselves who we really are, what we really want, and what we really value. It requires facing the fear of rejection and understanding that not everyone will approve of us, and that is perfectly fine. The freedom that comes from authenticity is worth infinitely more than the shallow comfort of conformity. When we step out of the prison, we step into a life of clarity. Relationships become deeper because they are built on honesty rather than performance. Work becomes more meaningful because it aligns with our true interests and values. The weight of pretending disappears, replaced with the lightness of being genuine. We find strength not in the mask we wear but in the truth we live, and that truth allows us to walk freely in a world where most are still trapped behind walls of their own making. Masks may win temporary approval, but they cost us long-term peace. The world often teaches us to present ourselves in ways that are more appealing, more polished, more acceptable to others. We learn early on that certain behaviors gain applause, certain appearances gain admiration, and certain words gain validation. So we shape ourselves into what we believe others want us to be. We hide our weaknesses, exaggerate our strengths, and perform a version of ourselves designed for acceptance. For a time this works. People smile, people approve, and people applaud, but the approval is fleeting and the applause is hollow, because it is not meant for who we really are, but for the mask we wear. Living with a mask demands constant maintenance. It requires us to always monitor our actions, our words, and even our thoughts to ensure the disguise is never questioned. While this vigilance may bring momentary acceptance, it also creates a growing tension within. Deep down, we know we are not being true to ourselves, and that inner conflict chips away at our sense of peace. Each time we hide our real feelings or silence our true opinions, we trade authenticity for comfort, but the cost is far greater than we realize. Over time, we lose touch with our true identity. We forget what it feels like to live freely without fear of judgment, and we confuse approval with love, applause with connection, and validation with worth. The mask may impress others, but it never satisfies the soul. Long-term peace comes only when our outer life reflects our inner truth. When there is a gap between the two, we feel restless, anxious, and unfulfilled. We might achieve success in the eyes of others, yet still lie awake at night questioning who we really are. The mask becomes a prison we willingly wear, and the approval we sought so desperately begins to feel meaningless, because it was never directed at our real selves. Peace is born from alignment. It grows when we no longer have to pretend, when our values, words, and actions are consistent with who we are at the core. The cost of the mask is that it prevents us from experiencing this alignment. Instead of clarity, we live with confusion. Instead of confidence, we carry doubt. Instead of deep relationships, we settle for shallow ones because people cannot truly connect with us if we never show them who we really are. To reclaim peace, we must dare to take off the mask, even if it risks disapproval. Authenticity may not win the crowd, but it will attract the right people, the right opportunities, and the right path for our lives. Approval fades quickly, but inner peace endures. When we live as ourselves, without disguise, without pretense, we find a strength far greater than applause and a freedom far greater than acceptance. Authenticity is freedom, pretending is bondage. To live authentically is to live in alignment with your true self, your deepest values, and your real desires without the constant fear of being judged or rejected. It is the ability to stand in the world as you are, without disguise, without apology, and without the heavy weight of trying to be someone else. Pretending, on the other hand, may seem easier in the short term, but it is a form of bondage that drains your spirit and limits your potential. Every act of pretense adds another invisible chain that binds you to expectations that were never yours to carry. When you are authentic, you breathe freely because you are no longer performing. You no longer waste energy maintaining an image or chasing approval. Instead, your energy is directed toward growth, creation, and contribution. You feel lighter because you are no longer hiding behind walls of fear. In authenticity, there is a calm strength, a quiet confidence that does not depend on circumstances or validation. You are free to succeed, free to fail, free to learn, and free to live without constantly calculating how others will perceive you. Pretending, however, is exhausting. It forces you to wear a mask every day, to adjust your words, your actions, and even your thoughts to fit into the mold of what you think others expect. It creates a constant inner tension because who you are and who you present are not the same. That tension is the weight of bondage. You may gain temporary acceptance, but it comes at the price of your own peace. You may gain recognition, but it is recognition for a role you played, not for who you truly are. Pretending traps you in a life that feels foreign, where success feels empty and relationships feel shallow, because nothing is rooted in truth. Authenticity opens doors that pretending keeps locked. When you live as yourself, you naturally attract the people, opportunities, and environments that align with you. Life begins to flow instead of feeling forced. The freedom of authenticity allows you to express your creativity, pursue your passions, and build genuine relationships where trust and respect are real. You no longer live under the burden of, "What if they find out who I really am?" Because you have already revealed it, and in that revelation lies your liberation. The bondage of pretending is subtle, which makes it dangerous. It starts with small compromises, a smile when you are unhappy, an agreement when you disagree, a silence when you want to speak. Over time, those compromises accumulate, and the weight of them change your spirit. You wake up one day and realize that the life you are living is not your own, but a performance built for others. To choose authenticity is to choose freedom over fear. It requires courage, yes, but the reward is a life that feels true, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. To choose pretending is to remain bound by invisible chains, living in the shadow of what could have been if only you had dared to be yourself. True confidence begins where the mask ends, Because confidence is not found in pretending to be perfect, but in embracing who you truly are. Many people believe that confidence comes from creating an image, from projecting strength even when they feel weak, from hiding flaws and only showing what they think others will admire. But this is not confidence, it is performance. Real confidence cannot exist behind a mask, because as long as you are pretending, you will always live in fear of being exposed. You cannot feel secure when your entire sense of worth depends on keeping the mask in place. When the mask comes off, however, something remarkable happens. You no longer carry the burden of perfection, and with that release comes freedom. True confidence is not the absence of flaws, it is the acceptance of them. It is standing tall not because you have nothing to hide, but because you have chosen to hide nothing. When you live openly, you no longer fear discovery. The world may not always applaud your authenticity, but you gain something far more valuable than applause. You gain peace, strength, and an unshakable sense of self. The mask might win you approval, but it will never give you stability. Approval is temporary, but authenticity is lasting. Confidence that is built on image is fragile, because the image can be shattered at any moment. Confidence that is built on truth is unshakable, because truth does not depend on circumstances or opinions. It is rooted in something deeper than external validation. When you stop pretending, you allow yourself to grow from a place of honesty. You are no longer pretending to be strong, you are actually building strength. You are no longer pretending to succeed. You are creating real success on your own terms. Taking off the mask requires courage, but that courage is what gives birth to true confidence. When you can look at yourself without judgment, you stop fearing the judgment of others. When you accept your own imperfections, criticism loses its power. When you live aligned with your values, you walk with a quiet assurance that no one can take away. That assurance is the essence of real confidence. It does not shout or boast, it does not need to impress, it simply radiates from within because it is authentic. On the other hand, living behind a mask keeps you dependent. You depend on others to validate the image you present, and when they don't, you depend on circumstances to remain favorable so that your disguise does not slip. That dependence is bondage, not confidence. The mask creates a fragile foundation, one that collapses under pressure. But when the mask ends, you stand on a foundation of truth, and truth is solid ground. True confidence is quiet but unbreakable. It begins the moment you stop pretending and decide that who you are is enough. It grows as you live in alignment with your values, speak honestly, and show up authentically in every part of life. The end of the mask is the beginning of freedom, and freedom is where real confidence takes root. People are drawn to truth, not perfection, because truth resonates at a level that perfection never can. Perfection feels untouchable, distant, and artificial, while truth feels human, relatable, and real. We live in a world where people often try to present flawless images of themselves, polished to such a degree that they appear more like illusions than reality. Social media, advertising, and even daily interactions are filled with carefully crafted masks designed to show only the best sides of life. For a moment, those images may capture attention, but they rarely capture hearts. What people truly connect with is honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to be genuine. Truth speaks to the soul because it mirrors our own experiences. When someone shares their struggles, their failures, or their lessons, it awakens recognition in others who have felt the same. We are drawn to those who admit their flaws because it reminds us that we are not alone in ours. Perfection, on the other hand, creates distance. It may inspire envy, but it rarely inspires connection. When people appear too perfect, others cannot see themselves in them. They admire from afar but do not feel close because perfection feels like a wall, while truth feels like a bridge. Living truthfully also creates trust. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship, whether personal or professional, and it cannot be built on an illusion. People trust those who are real, who say what they mean, who admit when they are wrong, and who live consistently with their values. Even when the truth is uncomfortable, it is respected, because honesty carries a weight that perfection cannot. When someone tries too hard to appear flawless, suspicion grows, because deep down we all know that no one is without faults. Truth invites respect, while pretense invites doubt. The pursuit of perfection is exhausting, both for the one pretending and for those observing. Maintaining a flawless image demands constant effort, and people can sense the strain behind it. In contrast, living in truth brings ease. It is liberating to no longer maintain a mask, and that freedom draws others closer. People admire courage, and there is no greater courage than showing up as yourself in a world that constantly pressures you to be something else. That courage is magnetic because it is rare. Truth also inspires growth, while perfection stifles it. When you admit your mistakes, you open the door to learning. When you acknowledge your weaknesses, you give yourself room to improve. Perfection insists on maintaining an image, which means denying errors and ignoring lessons. Truth is humble enough to say, "I don't know, but I will learn," and that humility attracts opportunities and relationships that a perfect facade could never sustain. At the core, people long for connection, and connection is born from truth. We are not drawn to the illusion of a perfect life, but to the reality of a human life lived with honesty. Truth is imperfect, but it is powerful. Perfection is polished, but it is empty. People are drawn to truth, not because it shines brighter, but because it feels real, and in that reality, we find the courage to embrace our own. Living with a mask is like running with weights. You may move, but never freely. The mask we wear in life, the one built from fear of judgment or the desire for acceptance, is heavy even if it cannot be seen. On the outside, it may look like progress, like we are moving forward, smiling, achieving, and appearing strong. But on the inside, every step is burdened by the weight of pretending, and what could have been a graceful stride becomes a constant struggle to keep up. Pretending drains energy, and energy is the very fuel needed to create, grow, and live fully. When we run with weights, we are not completely still, but our pace is slowed, our endurance is shortened, and our experience is diminished. The same is true with a mask. You may hold relationships, but they are limited by what you allow others to see. You may succeed in your career, but it will always feel incomplete because you built it on an image instead of your true self. You may smile in public, but in private you feel the ache of carrying something that was never meant to be carried. The mask becomes a burden that grows heavier with time, because the longer you wear it, the more you fear taking it off. The weight of a mask is not only emotional but also mental. Constantly calculating what to say, how to act, and how to appear is like running uphill with resistance bands tied to every limb. It robs you of spontaneity and joy. You cannot be fully present in the moment because part of your mind is always occupied with maintaining the disguise. And the saddest part is that even when others applaud you, the praise never truly lands because deep down you know it was meant for the mask, not for you. Imagine how much lighter life becomes without the mask. Just as a runner sheds unnecessary weights to move freely, shedding pretense allows the soul to breathe. When you show up as yourself, you conserve energy because you are no longer splitting it between truth and performance. Your words become more natural, your actions more genuine, and your connections more meaningful. Freedom is not just the absence of chains, but the absence of burdens that were never meant to be carried. The mask is one such burden, and once it is removed, life takes on a rhythm that feels effortless compared to the exhausting act of pretending. Living unmasked does not mean living without flaws, but it means running without unnecessary resistance. It means embracing who you are and moving forward without dragging along the weight of false identities. Every step becomes lighter, every relationship deeper, every success more satisfying because they are all rooted in authenticity. A runner with weights can still move, but a runner unburdened can fly. And in the same way, a life without masks does not just move, it soars. Every mask delays your real contribution to the world, because the world can only benefit from what is real, not from what is fabricated. Each of us carries within us a unique combination of experiences, perspectives, and abilities meant to create value for others. Yet when we wear a mask, pretending to be something we are not, we hide the very qualities that could make the greatest difference. We substitute authenticity with performance, and though the performance may be convincing, it does not carry the same power as truth. A mask may gain attention, but it cannot deliver lasting impact, because impact comes from substance, not appearance. The tragedy of the mask is that it not only limits you but also deprives others of what you could offer. Think of the countless ideas left unspoken because someone feared being judged. Think of the art never shared because the creator doubted its perfection. Think of the leadership never shown because someone tried to fit into the mold of others instead of trusting their own voice. The mask convinces us that playing a role will keep us safe, but what it really does is silence the contribution that could have inspired, healed, or guided someone else. Every day spent hiding is a day lost to potential. Masks also consume energy that could otherwise be directed toward real work. Maintaining an image requires constant attention, shaping your words, curating your actions, managing impressions. This mental and emotional labor leaves little room for genuine creation or meaningful growth. The time spent holding up a facade could have been used to build something authentic and lasting. Instead of pouring your energy into pretending, you could be pouring it into progress, but the mask delays that, sometimes for years. The world does not need more polished performances, it needs people willing to show up as they truly are. It needs voices that speak honestly, leaders who lead authentically, and creators who express what is within them without waiting for perfection. The mask denies the world this gift, replacing it with a watered-down version that may entertain for a moment but fails to endure. What endures is authenticity, because it connects at a level deeper than appearance. The delay caused by the mask is dangerous because time is the one resource we cannot reclaim. Every day lived behind a mask is a day not fully lived, a day where the world missed the chance to see what only you can offer. When you finally remove the mask, you realize how much lighter life feels, and how much more powerful your contribution becomes. You no longer worry about fitting into someone else's expectations, and this freedom allows you to give your best without hesitation. Every mask delays your real contribution to the world, but the moment you take it off, you unlock the ability to live with clarity, create with courage, and give with authenticity. The world is waiting for the real you, not the mask, because only the real you can make the difference you were born to make. Courage is removing the mask, even when fear tells you to keep it on, because fear will always whisper that safety lies in hiding. Fear tells us that if we reveal who we truly are, people will reject us, opportunities will pass us by, and we will be left vulnerable and exposed. It convinces us that the mask protects us, but in reality the mask imprisons us. The longer we wear it, the heavier it becomes, and the more distant we grow from our true selves. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act in spite of it, and nowhere is this more evident than in the choice to take off the mask and step into authenticity. Removing the mask feels risky because it strips away the layers we have built for protection. Many of us wear masks of confidence, competence, or perfection to hide our doubts and weaknesses. These masks are meant to shield us from judgment, but they also prevent us from forming genuine connections. People may admire the mask, but admiration is shallow without true understanding. Only when the mask comes off can others see us for who we are, and only then can real trust and respect take root. Courage lies in taking that chance, in believing that authenticity will bring greater rewards than pretense ever could. The act of removing the mask also requires faith in our own worth. It is easy to believe that the truth of who we are is not enough, that we must embellish or conceal to be accepted. Yet the greatest leaders, thinkers, and creators throughout history were not admired for fitting in, but for standing out. They had the courage to show up as themselves, flaws included, and in doing so, they left an impact that perfection could never achieve. To remove the mask is to declare that you are worthy as you are, and that declaration alone is an act of bravery. Fear will always argue against authenticity. It will tell you that rejection is unbearable, that failure is fatal, and that judgment will destroy you. But courage understands that rejection is survivable, that failure is a teacher, and that judgment is fleeting. The pain of living untrue to yourself is far greater than the discomfort of being misunderstood. Removing the mask may invite criticism, but it also invites freedom, peace, and the possibility of genuine growth. Every time you choose authenticity over pretense, you strengthen your courage. Each small act of truth-telling, each moment of showing up as yourself, builds resilience and inner confidence. What once felt terrifying begins to feel liberating. The fear does not vanish, but it loses its control over you, because courage has taken its place. Removing the mask is not a one-time act, it is a daily choice, and each time you make it, you reclaim a piece of your freedom and a measure of your power. Growth requires honesty. With yourself first, and then with others, because without honesty, there can be no true progress. Many people claim they want to grow, to improve, and to achieve more, yet they avoid the uncomfortable truth about where they currently stand. They deny their weaknesses, ignore their mistakes, and cover up their fears with distractions or excuses. But growth begins with a clear understanding of reality. You cannot change what you refuse to acknowledge, and you cannot improve what you will not admit needs improvement. Honesty with yourself is the first mirror you must look into if you wish to become more than you are today. Being honest with yourself means asking hard questions and answering them without evasion. It means admitting when you are not giving your best, recognizing when you are settling for less than you are capable of, and confronting habits that are holding you back. Self-deception may feel comforting in the moment, but it traps you in stagnation. It tells you that everything is fine when deep down you know it is not. True growth demands that you strip away illusions and face yourself as you are, not as you wish to appear. That confrontation may be uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, because once you see clearly, you can act with clarity. Once honesty with yourself is established, the next step is honesty with others. Pretending in front of others may protect your image, but it will never foster meaningful relationships. Trust is built on truth, and without it, every connection remains shallow. When you are honest with others, you give them the chance to know the real you, not the mask you wear. You open the door for genuine understanding, respect, and cooperation. This kind of honesty creates a foundation for growth in relationships, careers, and communities because people respond to sincerity far more than they do to perfection. Honesty with others also keeps you accountable. When you admit your weaknesses or share your goals openly, you invite others to support you, to challenge you, and to encourage you. Isolation breeds stagnation, but transparency creates an environment where growth can thrive. The courage to admit, "I don't know," or "I need help," is not weakness but strength, because it acknowledges the truth of your current state while leaving the door open for improvement. Growth requires honesty because lies, whether told to yourself or to others, act like barriers. They create illusions of progress while hiding the reality of inaction. They keep you trapped in cycles of mediocrity because they prevent you from addressing what truly matters. Honesty tears down those barriers. It clears the fog and reveals the path forward. With honesty comes awareness, with awareness comes responsibility, and with responsibility comes growth. The journey may not be easy, but it will always be real, and that reality is the soil in which true transformation takes root. The mask you wear is killing you slowly. The life you were meant to live begins the moment you take it off. The mask may feel like protection, but in truth, it suffocates you one breath at a time. It convinces you that safety lies in being what others expect, that acceptance comes only when you hide your true self, and that worth is measured by how well you can perform a role that was never truly yours. For a while it seems to work. People approve, they applaud, they admire, but all the while, you feel the weight of something missing. Deep inside, you know that the life being lived is not your own, and that realization quietly drains your spirit. Every day spent wearing the mask is a day lived at half strength. You may appear strong, but it is a strength born of strain, not of truth. You may appear confident, but that confidence is fragile because it depends on the mask never slipping. You may appear happy, but the smile is rehearsed, not rooted in peace. This slow erosion of your true identity does not happen all at once. It creeps in gradually until you find yourself restless, unfulfilled, and uncertain about who you really are. The mask becomes familiar, and familiarity convinces you that it is necessary, but familiarity is not freedom. Taking off the mask is the beginning of life because it is the beginning of truth. Only when you stop pretending can you discover the depth of your own strength. Only when you stop hiding can you experience the richness of real connection. Only when you stop performing can you channel your energy into creating, contributing, and becoming. The mask robs you of possibility because it diverts your focus toward maintaining an illusion, but once it is removed, that energy is released into building something real. The moment you take off the mask, you may feel fear. You may feel exposed, uncertain of how others will respond. Some may pull away because they were attached to the mask, not the person behind it. But the right people, the ones meant for your journey, will see you more clearly and value you more deeply. Opportunities that once felt out of reach begin to appear, not because you changed into something else, but because authenticity attracts what pretense cannot. The freedom of being yourself opens doors that performance keeps closed. The life you were meant to live cannot be lived behind a disguise. It requires you to step forward with honesty, to embrace imperfection, and to trust that you are enough as you are. The mask may have helped you survive, but it cannot help you thrive. The very things you fear others will reject are the things that make your contribution unique. The moment you take off the mask, you step into alignment with your true self, and in that alignment lies peace, power, and the beginning of the life you were always meant to live. The masks we wear promise protection, but they deliver only pressure. They may win us approval, but they cost us our peace. They may help us move, but they weigh us down so heavily that we never move freely. They silence our contribution, drain our energy, and keep us locked in a prison of our own making. Yet the key to freedom has always been in our hands. Courage is the decision to remove the mask, even when fear tells us to keep it on. Growth requires honesty, first with ourselves and then with others, because only in truth can we discover the strength we have been hiding. True confidence begins where the mask ends, and people are drawn not to perfection but to authenticity. The world does not need your disguise, it needs your originality, your sincerity, your real presence. The mask is killing you slowly, but the life you were meant to live, the one filled with purpose, peace, and genuine freedom, begins the very moment you take it off. So, today make the choice. Tear away the disguise. Step into your truth and begin to live not as an actor on someone else's stage, but as the author of your own life. The time is now, and the world is waiting for the real you.